Hello, my name is Mike Wallace, and significance is not necessarily a verb or a noun to me. It's not a good thing or a bad thing, but what it is it's um, it has to have a component of something that has a long-lasting effect. Anything of significance, whether it's a person, place, or thing, in order to be significant, has to be etched into history when we're talking historical proportions, something that doesn't dissipate over time and that has a long lasting effect and it leaves its footprint um, visible for future generations to see and recognize. And you definitely see that with the Greek and Roman civilization in today's culture, the 21st century of the Western civilization. Very much of our culture is comes from the Greek and Romans. We see a lot of that ancient heritage today in our culture with the participation of the Olympic Games. We have uh, movies based on historical events that took place during that time, such as the movie Gladiator and the movie Troy. We see it in our comic book heroes with Thor and Wonder Woman. And we also see it in our government with how we have structured our government, which is modeled after the republic that the Roman government used, which was having a senate and an emperor. And of course, we've upgraded, and we now have three branches of government: judicial, executive, and senate. But the idea is still the same, that you have a balance of power, and that it's not necessarily a dictatorship, though there were plenty of evil Caesars and emperors at the time that thought differently and didn't want to share that power. But what I also find most interesting and recently discovered is how intertwined the Roman civilization and the Greek civilization is intertwined with the Hebrew culture, and how Greeks and Romans were actually the catalyst of the movement of Christianity. Despite the efforts to suppress Christianity in the first century with the crucifixion of Jesus by Pontius Pilate, which he was pushed to do by the Hebrews, and then also later on the arrest and trial of Paul, who's later martyred, and Peter, who's martyred in Rome for practicing Christianity, and other emperors like Nero trying to suppress Christianity and imprisoning people who practiced the faith. Christianity continued to grow in the Roman Empire. It had an influence on biblical text. We see Roman historical figures fulfilling prophecy, like Caesar Augustine, who ordered the census, which then becomes the catalyst and puts into motion the prophecy of Jesus being born in Bethlehem, because Joseph and Mary have to report to Bethlehem to be counted in the census. And then later on, 300 years after the death of Jesus, we see Constantine, who legalizes Christianity, and then we see the change of a civilization and a culture that was polytheistic, who believed in multiple gods, convert to monotheistic and accept Christianity, and it becomes the national faith of the Roman Empire. And today we still have the Vatican right there in the middle of Rome. So, yeah, when you consider who has had a long-lasting effect and a huge significance on the 21st century, it's pretty clear that the early civilization, first century uh, Romans and Greeks, with philosophy and poetry and governing and even their influence on faith, has influenced and put the evolution and trajectory of the 21st century on its path that it is on today.